this if you would like to submit your own stories. The Paintball Chronicles. Why would you play the game how it's meant to be played? A little bit of exposition. I work for a local paintball and airsoft field as a referee and at their sales and rental booth. We have a couple of events every weekend. Sundays are always a lot of fun. We host walk-ons and the people who come are usually experienced, polite and sportsmanlike. But on Saturdays, the fricking birthday parties. Some of them are okay, mostly because kids just hide behind a wall for the entire time. Most times, however, it's absolutely miserable. I have a few stories like this, but here's one of them. It happened a few years ago. A kid forgot to put his barrel cover on when he entered the rest area. I ran up to him, grabbed his marker, which is what we call the paintball weapon, and placed the plastic shock over the muzzle, as I was trained to do. Hey, you've got to put this on when you come into this area, buddy. Oh, okay, I understand. I'm sorry. No worries, bro. It's just a safety thing. Are you having a good time? I didn't want him to be upset, so I wanted to be friendly. Yeah, it's so much fun. The lady we'll call the entitled parent was watching this exchange from a distance. The kid walks back to them and she sternly said something to him. She gave me a really dirty glance, and I mean dirty. Then she turned back around like it never happened. Shortly afterwards, we were having the kids versus parents paintball game. I decided to join the kids team to even the playing field. I ended up in a small bunker with the kid. He hit his parent twice in the thigh. I laughed and gave him a high five. She screeched, "Ow! Jeez, why would you do that? That's not fair at all. You're like a freaking pro and I never did this before. Learn some respect." Respectfully, this is how the game is played, and you did know what you signed up for. Besides, it wasn't me who got you, it was Slugger over here. Please calm down. Don't lie to me. This might be my first time, but I know more about it than you do. The kid chimed in, "Mom, it was me. Please stop yelling. It's just a game. I'm sorry I hurt you." Oh my god. Now you're all buddy-buddy with this jerk? At this point, she took her mask off. I blew my whistle immediately and yelled, "Ceasefire." My coworker came running over. "Hey, what's wrong?" Yeah, she took her mask off. I had to stop the game. "Ma'am, you can't take your mask off mid-game. Please follow me to the rest area." But she wasn't having any of that. "Don't tell me what to do. What are you gonna do, shoot me again? Yeah, right. Just leave me alone." She put her mask back on and went back behind the tree. I guess she expected us to resume play and pretend she never got hit, or, more importantly, never took her mask off. Also, the other kids and parents were starting to walk up to where the refs were, so there was quite a scene. I told everyone else to head back to the rest area and we'd begin the next game shortly. My colleague was trying to reason with her. "Ma'am, I'll get fired if I resume play right now, and you've already taken your mask off, and it's my job to take you back to the rest area. You'll be able to join back in the next game." "What difference does it make? Can you please just leave me alone?" "Actually, no, I can't. I also really don't want to curse you out and force you down to the rest area in front of all your friends and your kids. Unless you want to be removed from the property and your son to come with you, I suggest you follow me." "Shut the hell up. I'm not scared of your bullcrap. Just go away and keep playing the game like jerks." Okay. Another parent came up to console her, asking us what happened. We told him exactly what went down, but this lady disagreed. "They both shot me after I fell down. My mask fell off and they almost hit my eye." The other parent seemed to be able to tell that she was lying, as he gave me a look that seemed to say, "Sorry, she's an absolute moron," and started to walk back down with the others. My friend said, "Oh, come on, you're full of crap. Your son seems like he's having a good time, and the only reason I'm not dragging you off the property by your hair is because I don't want to ruin it for him." She officially lost it. She was mad. She raised her marker and shot my friend 4 times, once in the groin and 3 times in the stomach. I grabbed her marker and ripped it out of her hands. She screeched, "Ow! Why do you keep hurting me, you fricking jerk? I paid for all of this. Quit being such a prick and start playing fair." "You shot him for no reason other than you being a total piece of crap. Get out now, before we have to call the police." My friend was now on the phone with the manager. The super cool manager basically told us that we should do whatever was necessary to remove her from the field because she was a safety threat. That basically meant we could be physical and not get fired. My friend hangs up and turns back to her. "I'm giving you one last chance to act like a fricking adult before I start treating you like the B-word you are." "How dare you? I give you my business and this is how you treat me, butthole? Funnily enough, she didn't pay for this crap. The birthday boy's parents covered the prices for everyone. My coworker smiled. Have it your way then, idiot. He attempts to hold her arms behind her back and escort her back down the hill. She broke free and started trying to hit him, and he responded by gently but firmly pushing her away, and she slid about 6 feet down the hill. First you shoot me, and then you cut my hand, and now you freaking ruined my expensive jeans? I say, all of this could have been avoided if you acted like a darn adult. I'm the freaking mature one here. Get off your high horse, butthole. I'm suing you all. Note that we weren't actually being super physical. We very much so could have been, but we took her threats of suing fairly seriously, because insurance stuff is really complicated for paintball fields, and a lawsuit would cause problems even if we won the case. She was really crying at this point. I don't think she realized that she had nowhere else to go but down the hill, because we had to stop the game. She kept trying to break free and run back up. We eventually got her back down to the rest area. She had a nice long talk with the manager, who later told us he was trying not to laugh. He gave her a $20 off coupon just to shut her up. Little did she know it was expired. I felt bad for the kid, so I gave him a code for some free stuff for our website, which he redeemed a week later. It was just a t-shirt, special socks, a cool face mask, gloves, and some other stuff. Not so much, but I wanted him to have something so he didn't feel too upset. In the end, me, my friend, and the manager had a good laugh over the whole thing. Me and my coworker had to file a report stating what had happened, so that just in case she did sue us, we had official records of the event. We actually found her Twitter, and she said that we caused irreparable trauma and that she'd be taking immediate legal action. We never heard from anyone representing her. We did, however, get an email from the birthday boy's father, who said she tends to be, quote, overdramatic and stubborn, and that he apologizes for what she did. So last week, the kid came back to the field for an airsoft event and recognized me. He asked me if I ever posted the story anywhere, and I said no. He told me to put it on the Entitled Parents Reddit, so I put it up there. Thanks for reading. Update? Well, thanks for all the support this is getting. I learned from him that he only stays with his mother every other weekend. His dad is really cool and he has primary custody. He was actually kinda surprised that so many people liked the story, and he's reading the comments. Also, my manager was cool with me sharing the story, but he asked me not to say the name of the field for privacy reasons. I hope you guys understand. Thanks and sorry. The cool manager says hello, by the way, Internet. Did anyone else realize exactly how this was going to go when the woman said, "This might be my first time, but I know more about it than you do"? Jesus Christ, that was the ultimate warning sign. If the Dunning-Kruger effect had a slogan, that would be it. I honestly thought that was the kind of thing we'd just say when we were parrying these idiots, and not the sort of thing that someone would actually say verbatim, and without a hint of irony. Every day that I read one of these stories, I thank my lucky stars that I've only met the mid-level Karens and Kens of life. People like the one from this story, that at first seem like a complete work of fiction to the narrator. I mean, fabricating stories of physical attacks, attacking other people without a trace of irony, putting up such an undignified struggle. But the fact that we seem to get so many who exhibit this exact behavior means that they can't all be fictional, right? And go figure that apparently all the other parents in the group were used to her crap. I'll bet she asked them to be witnesses in her lawsuit and got eye rolls and crickets in return. And although it feels mean to point it out, go figure that she was divorced as well. Was that too mean? I don't care. Go to therapy, Karen. Full day, overtime only? Many years ago, I worked as an engineer repairing retail customers' PCs. Our team was small, and there were often times when the amount of PCs needing repair was more than the team could get through during normal hours. In these circumstances, we were allowed voluntary overtime on Saturday, and we'd get time and a half for it. The rules for overtime were flexible, and we could start when we wanted and finish when we wanted, and would get paid for each full 60 minutes we were clocked in for. Back then, my girlfriend, now wife, used to work until 2 p.m. on a Saturday, so I'd go in for 9:30 a.m. and then leave at 1:30 p.m., giving me plenty of time to pick her up. This worked out great for everyone. However, the company structure was a little strange, with the front-facing customer service under the management of one director and the back of house, including my team, under management of another. And they despised each other, constantly trying to cause each other problems. And of course, the workers were always caught in the middle. One fateful Saturday, I was working and I noticed the front-facing director walk up, see that I was there and move on without saying anything. I didn't think anything of it, and a short while later I left at 1:30 as normal. I got in as normal on Monday to find that I had a meeting request from my director. Confused, I attended the meeting and found both my director and the front director also there. Turns out the front director had arranged for a customer to bring their PC for an urgent repair on Saturday, having confirmed I was there to fix it. On-the-spot repairs were very rare, reserved for only the most problematic or highest-spending customers. Me not being there to look at it had caused the customer to have a meltdown in the shop in front of many other customers. Of course, the front director took the opportunity to bring this up with the managing director to get one up on my director, leading to the Monday meeting where she was out for my blood. Luckily, as the overtime rules for our department were clear and I followed them, there was no direct action taken against me, with my director supporting me. However, one thing that did come from this was that we lost our flexible overtime. From that point on, if we wanted to do overtime on a Saturday, we must be there for the whole day. As I wasn't willing to lose my entire Saturday, overtime stopped. It took less than a month for the department's backlog to hit over 1,000 units. Our target was to have under 15 units at the end of each day. I'd originally wondered why my director didn't put up a fight when the new rules were set, but it didn't take long to see the number of customer service complaints and call waiting times skyrocket, all of which was the front director's responsibility. Not long after, my director approached me smiling to let me know that the front director had gone to the managing director, first to try to force us to do overtime, and when that failed, beg for the new rule to be removed. So the next Saturday, I was back, earning a little extra cash, and that director didn't try to screw around with our hours again. Screw around and find out. I know you're biased in favor of the maintenance staff, but the front manager is the jerk. I really can't think of any reason for all this to go down, except for the front director in particular just wanting to weaponize you against their arch enemy in the back. And as for why your manager didn't say anything, I think that might have solved the problem earlier, but it was probably a heck of a lot more satisfying to watch the full consequences of the spiteful desk boss play out. They knew that the longer they waited, the worse the situation would get, and eventually the higher-ups would go looking for the person ultimately responsible for the kerfuffle. And the front manager was realizing this as well. They tried to force people to pick up the slack within the rule system they'd created so that they could say it was working. And I'm so glad that it didn't, so they had to get down on their hands and knees and beg. So damn satisfying, and we're happy for you, author. Enjoy your half Saturdays again, unless you've got used to the joys of free time by now. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories. Or if you want to check out some great music, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot. Everything linked in the description.
Oh, ist alles furchtbar. Alles ist furchtbar. Und ich habe das Gefühl, es wird noch furchtbarer. Kennst du das? Es ist wieder Weihnachten und ein dicker alter Mann schiebt sich durch deinen Kamin. Dann hast du wahrscheinlich an der falschen Tankstelle geparkt. Aber darum geht's heute gar nicht. Heute schauen wir wieder die 6 most disturbing cases of real found footage. Ja, es ist wieder mitten in der Nacht. Leute wollen was Gruseliges gucken. Da haben wir was Gruseliges. Ich glaube, es wird furchtbar. Ich glaube, es wird furchtbar. Und wir gehen sofort rein. Wieder eine Typ neulich an der Tankstelle. So.
On August 15, 1989, a family of 3 was driving along Interstate 205 near Stockton, California when their car began to overheat.
Ja.
Forced to pull over, the father popped the hood to check the damage. It didn't take long to realize they needed professional help. Leaving the mother behind to stay with the car, the father and his young son set out on foot to find a payphone. As they walked, the boy noticed something unusual.
Okay, ganz kurz. Das ist real found footage, aber das hier ist doch keine found footage, weil das wurde ja so aufgenommen, oder? Das sieht nicht so aus, als wäre das irgendwie... Ich meine, hier steht ein Kameramann, der nimmt die gerade auf. Das...
A camouflage jacket discarded by the side of the road.
Das ist nachgestellt.
This piqued his curiosity and he went over to take a closer look, only to find an unmarked VHS tape sticking out from one of its pockets.
Okay, es war nachgestellt.
The boy picked up the tape and later brought it back to his home. By this point, his parents were also curious about what they'd find on this seemingly abandoned tape. So they inserted it in their home VHS player and pressed play.
Ganz kurz, wenn ihr irgendwo einen USB-Stick findet oder sonst irgendwas oder vielleicht einer bei euch im Briefkasten steckt oder bla oder jemand vergisst den irgendwo in einem Bus oder so, benutzt den USB-Stick nicht. Höchstens an einem internetlosen System, das ihr nicht mehr braucht quasi. Ja, benutzt den fucking USB-Stick nicht. Macht es nicht. Wichtig.
However, the contents of the tape were far darker
Genau,
than
auf einer
what they
Virtual
could have
Machine geht.
imagined.
Da würde gehen.
Now,
Aber
the original unedited video has never been made available online, but there are different pieces from various sources that I've done my best to put together. It opened with the camera pointed at a massive fire at night, with what I can only assume is the cameraman saying some ominous stuff.
Look at the fire. This is my domain. My hell.
A bit into the video, the camera refocused and the source of the fire became clear. It was a single-story home that looked like it was still under construction before it caught fire.
I call it home. My hell. The whole sky's black with smoke.
ist ja auch nachts.
That I will destroy and burn your soul up. Ancient spirit of evil.
Meanwhile, the cameraman kept talking, and the longer he spoke, the more unsettled.
Das ist nicht das Feuer, was ich als Kind mal gelegt habe. Das war ganz klein und übersichtlich. Es sah eher aus wie bei Forrest. Das sah nicht so aus. Nein, wir reden über ein ganz anderes Feuer. So sah das nicht aus. Ja, wir wurden von der Polizei nach Hause gebracht, aber nur, weil der Rentner die gerufen hat. Es gab aber keine Anklage oder sonst irgendwas. Wir wurden nur nach Hause gefahren. Und das war lieb. Eigentlich. Glaube ich.
Settling it became. Later in the video, you could also hear fire trucks arriving at the scene and the cameraman commenting on it before ending the video with a direct threat to the viewer.
The fire department's trying to put it out. What a laugh. I gotta go now.
Das ganze Video wirkt ehrlich gesagt so, als ich weiß halt nicht genau, wie das mit dem Brand zusammenhängt.
Der Nächste! Ab in das Loch, das fast keinen Boden hat.
Gifts. I immediately thought that this was some sort of test, like those gold digger pranks you see, or sometimes they call them gratitude tests to see if somebody will be happy even when they get a gift that's not great. There's actually a video that a lot of people were sharing recently where a guy brings a girl to McDonald's and he's filming her in the car and she gets upset and says, "I thought you were taking me out to eat," because she's all dressed up. And the guy says, "Yeah, I am. This is where we're gonna eat, at McDonald's." But at the last moment, her disappointment turns into sort of a gratitude because she says, "Oh, they have great fries here." And then all the comments in response to that say, "She passed the vibe check. She passed the vibe check." So I definitely thought this was the direction it was going since he was so defensive, but the whole thing just happened because the cat owner canceled on him and he was frustrated. So he actually was angry at her in that moment, it sounds like, because he said he had no excuse for his comment there. So if your significant other gave you a gift like this, would it bother you or would you be fine with it? Let me know down below in jerk or not a jerk and why. Am I the jerk for bringing my sister-in-law's wallet to the restaurant when she conveniently always forgets it? I'm a 28-year-old female and my sister-in-law Amy, who's 26, always comes to visit from out of town. She stays with us instead of at a hotel and always wants to go to expensive restaurants. She always conveniently forgets her wallet or comes up with excuses as to why she can't pay her share. She has implied since I make much more money than her, I should be the one to pay. No, not my husband should pay, but me specifically. I do make a fair amount of money, but not so much that I can treat someone every time they come into town. Nonetheless, in the past, I have just paid the bill and asked her to pay me back, and she never has. She had made a reservation at an extremely expensive restaurant last night, and before we left, I made it clear that I wouldn't be paying her bill. This is where I might be the jerk. I'll admit I got this move straight from an episode of 2.5 Men. As we were leaving, her and her husband went to the car. I pretended to forget something and went back inside. I found her wallet sitting right on top of her suitcase. I put it in my purse and we went to the restaurant. When we were done eating, I asked for separate bills. She said, "No, we need one bill bill because she forgot her wallet again. I reached into my purse and said, "This wallet?" She was extremely furious. She said that I should not have touched or grabbed her wallet. So, am I the jerk for taking her wallet and bringing it to the restaurant? I'm surprised that she would even continue to go eat out with her sister-in-law again after all this. Or if she did, as some people pointed out, bring her wallet but don't bring your wallet, so there's no choice but for her to pay for the whole bill. And if somebody said if you do that, then just never go to eat at a restaurant with her again. But honestly, this is some shady behavior from the sister-in-law. She's purposely trying to engineer these situations so that she can get delicious food and then put the bill on someone else every time. The OP is obviously married into the family, so she doesn't get a choice on who the sister-in-law is, but you still get a choice on who you want to spend your time with. Let me know how you would handle this down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories in this series, use the playlist at the top of the description. And next time you live stream, use the Cream of the Crop music. Search for Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever music platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your stream. It's free. Cream of the Stream. Either way, thanks a lot for listening.
I tried to knock myself out with melatonin and ended up becoming a zombie. Since I was in high school, I can barely sleep by myself without being cursed with nightmares, waking up at least 2 to 3 times a night and being a light sleeper, especially if I'm hungry. So naturally, I take melatonin gummies before bed to help me get to sleep. Now, I'm in a college dorm where I have to share a bedroom with a roommate. He's a great guy, super friendly, helpful, and funny. During the day, that is. At night, he's the bane of my existence. This is because there are some nights his snoring is so obnoxious, I can only compare it by being within inches of a diesel generator. Oh, and there's no possibility of waking him from that state. Last night was the 4th night in a row where I hadn't gotten a quality night's sleep. I had just gotten back to sleep for I think what was the 2nd time. My memory isn't very clear at 3 in the morning after all, when whatever power grid my roommate is plugged into needed a full load of power. Not even my noise-canceling earbuds could stop this one. At this point, I've been tired for 4 days, so I'm not thinking clearly. Did I go get a snack to make sure I wasn't hungry and wait out the storm? No, I'd already eaten dinner, and even though it was small, I don't want to make myself fat over this. Again, 3 a.m. logic is not my strong suit. My roommate's nose continues to taunt me, screaming how wonderful his sleep is, for all the world to hear. At this point, I'm desperate for a definitive way to knock myself out as soon as possible. I'd already taken my melatonin gummies for all the good that it was doing, but desperate times call for desperate measures. With an exhausted and angry mind to work with, I made the decision to take 2 more doses of melatonin gummies, thinking that if I combined that with some backup for my earbuds, I would surely pass out for however long I needed to. And because it's the weekend, I don't care when I wake up. Turns out melatonin does not work like that. Instead of knocking me out, I spent the next several hours not asleep, but in some state of still conscious but half asleep, which was something at least. But it really does not make you feel rested when you wake up. Eventually, I did get a couple hours of actual sleep, but my terrible decision finally caught up with me. I hadn't had nearly enough time to sleep off that much melatonin, and as soon as the sun comes through the blinds, I wake up again, this time in a groggy haze, giving me new empathy for how zombies must feel. I try to get more sleep, but to little success, so I drag myself up from my fleece grave to walk around a bit. It wakes me up enough to be considered alive, but I am still super drowsy. In fact, writing this story has helped me wake up, and hopefully the melatonin will wear off later today. But for now, I'm not getting as much work done as I had hoped. Oh, I have definitely been here. Melatonin does not give you a good night's sleep if you do it wrong. It just doesn't quite knock you out like you would think it would. There are some allergy medications like Benadryl that when I would take them as a kid if I was having allergy problems, they would knock me out so fast. But that is not melatonin. It assists with you getting some sleep, but it doesn't take you down. So I understand what this guy was going through with waking up the next day and feeling like a zombie, because I've been there many, many times. It's very easy to lose a lot of sleep from melatonin, but when it works, it's great. But when it doesn't work, oh boy, you're in trouble. We've all had that roommate where they are just an absolutely obnoxious sleeper, where they snore so loud and it's impossible to sleep. You can try earplugs, you can try noise-canceling machines, you can try waking them up and then going back to sleep quickly, pretending like you didn't just throw a shoe at them at 2 in the morning. But at the end of the day, it's honestly up to you to try and find a solution. So Godspeed to this man, because I don't know if they're ever going to find a solution to this. And I can tell you that their school experience is going to be very long with very little sleep. I ran through a wildlife corridor and was tracked by a pack of wolves. I've been training to run a marathon, and one of my biggest challenges is finding fun places to run. I prefer running to be a bit of an adventure so that I can focus on the journey and think less about the actual running. I live at the edge of my city in Canada and decided that it would be nice to run near the river that is close by. After a 5 a.m. wake up, I had a big glass of water, then set out hoping to run about 20 kilometers. It is winter here, so the sun currently rises at 8 o'clock in the morning. Till then, it's completely pitch black. I was running along a road, but it had next to no vehicle traffic. About 5 kilometers in, I started to feel pretty vulnerable. I considered turning back, but wanted to get my kilometers in. There's a coffee shop on the other side of the river that I decided to make my midpoint. I'd have a coffee, then run back. As I started to approach the river valley, I thought I noticed something on the hill to the north. Assuming it was a deer, I continued on. At this point, a truck drove past, and I figured it scared off the animal since I couldn't see it anymore. A few minutes later, I noticed 2 wolves to the north once again. I was starting to panic. I was close to crossing the bridge, which on the other side would have more humans, vehicles, businesses, etc. So I picked up the pace, trying to get there fast. The wolves ran away as another truck was approaching. I thought about stopping the driver to ask for a ride, thinking that I was likely being paranoid, and the bridge was close, and I didn't want to look silly. I decided against asking for a ride. To be honest, I don't know if I would let a guy like me into my vehicle. I'm 6'5", weigh 210 pounds, and I'm wearing full winter gear with only my eyes showing. Yeah, that's a no-go. After that truck drove by, I noticed the wolves almost immediately after. I took to the south and noticed 3 more on the other side of the road. At this point, I figured I was in for a fight. I remembered reading to go hard after the smallest wolf. If you can hurt them, the rest will most likely run away. That became my plan as I tried to spot the runt of the litter. The pack was trotting along both sides of the road with me for about 3 minutes, which felt like 3 hours. Before I knew it, I made it to the bridge. The barriers on each side of the bridge marked the end of the road for the wolves because there was a dead end for them. My heart was racing. I continued across the bridge to the coffee shop. I ordered a coffee and then called an Uber. At the end of it, I made pretty good time. Yeah, I would say you probably made pretty good time. You had a wolf pack tracking you down. Imagine yourself getting up trying to get exercise early in the morning on a winter's day, and instead of having, I don't know, a normal experience, you have a pack of wolves tracking you down. I would be furiously scared, slapping myself in the head for even thinking of not going to a gym. I mean, I could be doing this on a treadmill. Why did I decide to get up and suddenly start running through Game of Thrones? I don't need this. Overall, this guy's super lucky he didn't become breakfast for this pack of wolves. My girlfriend got accepted into law school, but I don't want her to go. My girlfriend and I started dating our first year of college. When I asked her to be my girlfriend before, she made it clear and told me that her priority and ultimate goal after college is to go to Harvard Law. She made it very clear to me before we made it official that if she gets accepted to Harvard Law, that she would choose that over me. At the time, I agreed and said I'd support her no matter what. Now that we're graduating this May, she's going to Boston, and I'm gonna stay in California since I'm happy with a bachelor's and don't plan to continue into higher education. I feel like garbage because I don't want her to go to Boston, because I don't want to be physically separated from her. Some of my friends tell me that she's being selfish for not considering what I think, but I think she's not selfish, since she made it very clear to me before we started dating that once she gets into Harvard Law, she'll go to Harvard since that's her priority. And I was okay with this before we started dating, but it's only sinking in now that it's finally happening. What do I do? This is a tricky one for the guy. He willingly went into a relationship with a girl that he knew was going to choose Harvard Law over him. And I don't blame her. It's Harvard Law. This is gonna open so many doors for her. And she got in, so she's probably super smart. What does this guy have to offer besides just being the boyfriend? I mean, really, I can understand him not wanting her to go to school and to be away from her literally across the United States. But at the same time, I mean, did he not already know that this is what was gonna happen? And sure, they can try and make it work as some kind of long-distance relationship, relationship, but my prediction is that this relationship will not last. And it's unfortunate because it sounds like the guy really likes her, and I'm assuming the girl likes him as well, but clearly not enough to stick around because she is going to school. If anything, this guy should definitely try and stay in contact and try and keep this relationship going. He has a girlfriend that's super driven and knows exactly what she wants. She's on the verge of getting a career that's gonna make her a ton of money. He should be proud that this is his girlfriend. He should be thanking his lucky stars that this is who he's dating. If anything, this guy should move out to Boston just to be closer to her. I can understand wanting to stop at a bachelor's degree and not wanting to pursue higher education, but this is at the cost of you basically losing your girlfriend. This is gonna be a tough relationship to keep in contact with because literally she's not going to be around him, and there's probably gonna be other guys there that are around that will probably be more than happy to step in absence of her boyfriend in California. Tricky situation. In my opinion, if this guy really wants the best for his girlfriend, he should accept that she is going to Harvard Law and that he absolutely should not stand in the way. Am I the jerk for wanting to break up with my girlfriend after she destroyed my expensive electronics? I had a long day of drinking with some friends and my girlfriend. We ended up calling it a night due to the fact that my girlfriend had a bit too many. We ended up putting her to bed and I decided to go back out with my friend. My phone ended up dying, and during that time, my girlfriend woke up confused and enraged that she didn't know where she was at. I arrived home to find my laptop shattered, my Nintendo Switch broken, and my Bluetooth speaker in pieces. Fast forward to this morning. She was extremely sorry and offered to pay for everything. She claims she didn't remember breaking anything and doesn't know why she did it. At this point, though, I'm torn about our relationship. She promises to work on her anger. I, of course, had an in-depth conversation with her about how this is not okay. But at this point, should we just end the relationship or try to work through it? We just got an apartment together, which of course adds layers of difficulty and inconveniences if we do end it. This is a tricky situation. The guy in this story is going to be living in an apartment with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend can black out if she's had a few too many and start breaking things in anger. That's not a good sign. I don't know personally if I would want to live with that. There would always be this underlying fear that if she has just a few too many, she could start swinging. And what starts with a Nintendo Switch and a laptop getting shattered soon becomes black eye and broken orbitals. I don't blame this guy for thinking that he should just break up with this girl, especially after just losing $1,000+ on electronic property that, yes, it could be replaced, but at the same time, it shouldn't have been broken in the first place. From the sounds of it, it doesn't look like this is something the guy ever expected would happen. And while the girlfriend is apologetic, I think maybe it's time to reevaluate if they really should be living together. I have broccoli-related trauma and ended up vomiting on my therapist because of it. This post is going to require some background, as you could imagine. So when I was born, my mother was a very young mother. She was 15 years old. She wasn't ready for a baby. And I'm told this is why she gave me to her grandmother. Her grandmother really liked broccoli. I'm talking she had broccoli-themed decor. There were black and white pictures of broccoli hanging on her walls. She had broccoli plushies, and she incorporated it into every meal we ate. I think she said once it was her dead husband's favorite food or something like that. Growing up, I always assumed that this was normal, but once I attended school, my classmates would always question and sometimes mock my t-shirts, which all featured cartoons of broccoli. I quickly grew to resent the vegetable. I stopped eating it at dinner. My great-grandmother and I would have fights about it. She always insisted I clear my plate of broccoli, so I had to start sneaking it into the trash. What's worse was her desserts were always those weird, borderline horrifying Jell-O molds you would always see in the 50s, and every single one had a broccoli in it. Anyway, fast forward to now. I haven't eaten broccoli since I was a kid. I've been seeing a therapist for unrelated reasons, and I casually mentioned this to her. She asked for more details, and I realized I'm surprisingly sensitive about the subject. She suggested I try eating a small portion of broccoli as a way to challenge and overcome these negative emotions. I wasn't comfortable doing that alone, so we agreed that I'd bring some in for our next session. Fast forward to yesterday. Yesterday, I arrived for our session with some broccoli and reluctantly tried a bite. As soon as I tasted it, all I could remember was my grandma's weird obsession with it and all the discomfort and embarrassment it brought me. I vomited all over myself, my therapist, and her office. She was nice about it, but I could tell she was highly uncomfortable. She said I might not be ready to confront my broccoli issue, and I think I might need to find a new therapist. I don't know whether to laugh at this story or just to feel a little bit bad. This person clearly has some trauma related with the vegetable broccoli, but it's so absurd that I can't help but think this is probably the weirdest thing this therapist has probably ever run into. let alone tried to resolve. I mean, I don't think she imagined that her client would come in and throw up all over the place, especially on her. I mean, how close was she when they were doing this? I would have definitely gotten the details and said, hey, are you gonna throw up when you eat this? What kind of trauma are we talking about? I understand being sensitive about the subject, but it would be nice to know if they're gonna vomit all over the place. But I think that's also the mark of a good therapist, because if I was in her situation, I 100% would bust out laughing. I'm sure this is serious to the OP, but at least they have some kind of humor revolving around it. I slept for 12 hours straight. The police showed up at my door to make sure I was still alive. Last night, I went to sleep around midnight. I forgot I had planned to go to the gym and didn't set any alarms because it's Saturday. My boyfriend wakes up on time and goes to the gym without me, and after I still haven't responded to his texts or calls, he texts my parents to ask if they'd heard from me. My parents checked my socials, saw that I hadn't been active for 12 hours, and began to panic. My roommates were gone for the weekend, and they had no way to contact me. In a panic, my dad calls the police to do a wellness check on me. I wake up from a dead sleep to banging on my bedroom door, opening it face to face with the police. In retrospect, it's funny, but at the time, it was so horrifying for everyone involved. So yeah, that's the last time I'm sleeping in too long. 12 hours is not that long of a time for someone to suspect that you might be in danger. In fact, I think it's really strange that the dad in this situation decided to just call the police after not hearing from their son. I mean, that's weird. Why not stop by and go check in on them yourself? You don't have to call the police. I've gone a single day without talking to my family, and it's fine. I'm still alive and kicking. The parents in this story just need to chill out. The guy's just trying to sleep in on a Saturday. I mean, come on. It's not that big of a deal. And yeah, in retrospect, it is hilarious. But I can understand that everybody was worried, but it seems a little out of check. It seems like the people in his life just need to take a chill pill and calm down. There is a silver lining though. There are clearly a lot of people that care about this guy. He couldn't go 12 hours without contacting someone or saying something on social media without a bunch of people freaking out. So yeah, he's got good family members and friends around him, even if they all kind of jump to the same crazy conclusion. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Turn on notifications so you never...
Sociopath cons me out of $25,000. So I report his organized crime to the IRS and cost him $500,000. Here's what happened. Subscribe to AMI the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. I was to be married to a very OCD and pragmatic man. For example, for him, a big romantic gesture had been to leave me alone for 24 hours at the hospital right after I had our son, so he could go pay bills and mow the lawn. 20 years later, I do understand he really did express love this way, but that's another story. I was in dire need of physical contact because he'd never touched me, unless he wanted very bland intercourse. And also, he never ever kissed me. This story isn't about him, it's only a preamble. So I divorced him. Not just for what's above, mind you, but I felt alone and unloved in this relationship. I just wrote about it to explain the state of mind I was in when I met this other person that we'll call Jerk. Jerk was the total opposite. He was very in tune with his emotions, and he was very, very intense. This will be important later. He expressed love like I thought I needed. On our first date, the waitress asked how long we'd been together, since he was so into me and touching me. He made me feel amazing. He had a huge house and a rather flashy lifestyle, so I assumed he was really well off. He told me he owned a car wash and a phone marketing company. If we fast forward a bit, at this point we'd been dating for about a year, and he had just asked me and my son to move in with him. I wasn't 100% sure, but he prepared the room for my son nonetheless. As I started spending more time in his house, still keeping mine, I also started to see strange behavior. He'd be up all night but sleep all day. I also overheard a few phone calls where he was telling people they owed money and needed to pay, but the conversations didn't fit with a car wash or phone marketing business. At some point, he told me he was having money problems. He said huge clients were late in paying, and that this was jeopardizing his house payments. So I, stupid me, offered to help. I'm missing a part of this story because it started as me offering help with the house since we were there a lot. Still had my house though, but it ended up with me lending him $25,000. I can't for the life of me remember that progression. The loan was supposed to be for 3 weeks, he said. I'd have it all back in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. That 25K came from my retirement savings and my son's college money, so I had to pay a fine to access it. It's also money it took me 10 years to put aside. That money was very important to me. During those 3 weeks, I went out to have drinks with my friends and found him on a date with another woman. I saw him French kissing another woman. I said nothing, went to his house, packed my bag, and left. So anyway, I thought he'd be an adult and would still reimburse the 25K at the end of this 3 weeks. Big mistake. Someone I knew told me he was glad I left and proceeded to tell me about him. He said Jerk was a junkie, hooked on all kinds of stuff. Hence why he was so intense and so into his emotions. That also explained the erratic sleep patterns. But the final blow was when he told me that Jerk was also a con man, a specialist in defrauding older people by phone, his so-called phone marketing company. In the beginning, I wasn't sure I believed it, but then bits of what I had overheard in the last year started to make sense, and I realized it was all true. Back to this later. I tried getting my money back many different ways, and none worked. I was at the end of my rope, and since it was in my year post-divorce, and right after the 2008-2009 economic crash as well, I was very broke. So this is what I did. First, he'd given me access to pay bills online, not to his bank accounts, but to his emails. So I was able to investigate all his accounts with the same password. I printed and screenshotted every little bit of information related to money. I found proof that he was indeed scamming people, and found the people he worked with, and even the name of the person at Western Union who facilitated the money transfer. I found out he was an organized criminal. I also found out he did this between the US and Canada. It was at this point that I started preparing Strike 1. For Strike 1, I printed his face and the face of everyone working for or with him in defrauding people and left hundreds of flyers in his neighborhood. I also called the hotline for financial crime prevention in both Canada and the US and gave very specific details and names. Know that even if he had given me the money, this goes against my core values, and I would have done the same thing either way. At this point, I was preparing Strike 2. I was dumb in lending him money, but at least I did it the right way. I had written him a check. I didn't do cash. I wanted proof just in case. It would turn out to be a good idea. On the check, I had written that it was a loan. Thank you, Judge Judy, for this tip. Since he didn't pay me back, I prepared an invoice and sent it to myself from his hacked email. When the time came to do my taxes, I filed the 25K as an expense using this invoice. I have many freelancers, and I just slid him in as one of them, and it passed. Don't ask me how I got his social security number, I can't remember. But I ended up having access to it, so I ratted him out to the IRS for hiding income. I found out later on through friends that the IRS started investigating him for unpaid taxes. I heard that he had to pay 38% taxes on that 25K and pay a 20% fine for not declaring income. At this point, I was satisfied. I figured $9,500 in taxes plus 5K in fines was 50% of what he owed me. At least he didn't get away with it all. But remember, I told you on the check I had written that it was a loan. So I took him to court and won. He didn't even show up. So he has to reimburse the full 25K plus court fees, plus what he owes to the IRS. So it's $39,500 that he has to pay for not reimbursing 25K. To this day, I still haven't seen a cent, but the rest of the story makes it worthwhile. At first, I thought the financial crime call I made had no effect. Well, it's now the cherry on top. What I didn't know at the time is that the IRS would team up with the wire fraud division and look at everything he did. They weren't able to catch him on the wire fraud, but since the house he had didn't fit with the money he was declaring, they got him on